Have you ever kissed a complete stranger just to escape an impossible situation? Have you ever told a lie so big that it changed your entire life? Han Soyeon did both on the same night. And what happened next was something she never could have imagined. This is her story. The crystal chandeliers of the Grand Hyatt Seoul Ballroom cast a warm glow over hundreds of elegantly dressed guests. It was the kind of event where fortunes were made and broken with a single handshake, where Seoul's elite gathered to see and be seen. Han Soyeon stood near the entrance, adjusting the simple black dress she had borrowed from her best friend Minji. At 27, she had the kind of natural beauty that needed no embellishment, though tonight she felt woefully underdressed among the designer gowns and glittering jewelry surrounding her. She wasn't supposed to be here. Her stepmother had insisted, claiming it was time for Soyeon to reconnect with the family after years of estrangement. But Soyeon knew the real reason. Her father's company needed investors, and apparently, she was expected to help charm them. What her family didn't know was that Soyeon had been quietly building her own empire. Under the pseudonym Dr. S.H., she had become one of the most sought-after medical researchers in the world. Her groundbreaking work on neurodegenerative diseases had attracted attention from pharmaceutical companies across the globe. But she had kept this identity secret, preferring to work in anonymity rather than deal with the politics and attention that came with fame. Her phone buzzed with a message from Minji. "How's it going? Any disasters yet?" Soyeon typed back quickly. "Just arrived, hoping to slip out in an hour without anyone noticing." Before she could send the message, a familiar voice made her blood run cold. "Soyeon, you actually came. I didn't think you'd have the courage." She turned to find her half-sister Yuri approaching, arm linked with a handsome man Soyeon recognized immediately. Her heart clenched painfully. Kang Do-yeon, her ex-boyfriend, the man who had proposed to her 6 months ago, then disappeared without explanation. The man she had loved with everything she had. "Do-hyun," Soyeon said, her voice carefully neutral. "I didn't expect to see you here." He smiled, that charming smile that had once made her knees weak. "Yuri and I have been seeing each other. Didn't she tell you?" The words hit like a physical blow. Soyeon looked at her half-sister, saw the triumphant gleam in her eyes, and understood. This was why she had been invited. Not to help the family, but to be humiliated. "It just happened," Yuri said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "After you two broke up, Do-hyun needed someone to comfort him. One thing led to another." "Broke up?" Soyeon's voice sharpened. "He ghosted me. Disappeared without a word." Do-hyun laughed, and the sound made her skin crawl. "Come on, Soyeon. Did you really think I was serious about you? It was just a bit of fun. You were always so intense, so focused on your little medical research. Honestly, it got boring. Several nearby guests had stopped talking, turning to watch the drama unfold. Soyeon felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I told you so, Do-hyun." Yuri giggled loudly. "I told you she'd fall for you easily. Girls from the countryside are so naive. Never seen a handsome man before." More laughter from the growing crowd. Soyeon felt the ground shifting beneath her feet. "You made a bet?" Soyeon's voice was barely a whisper. "About me?" "It wasn't personal." Do-hyun shrugged carelessly. "You were just convenient. A stepping stone, really. But then I met Yuri. And well, she's the real daughter of the Han family. You're just the one they threw away." The crowd had grown larger now. People were whispering, pointing. Soyeon could feel their judgment pressing down on her like a physical weight. "Enough," Soyeon said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm leaving." "Oh no, not yet." Yuri stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "You don't get to run away. You've embarrassed our family for years with your country ways and your pathetic little clinic. It's time everyone saw you for what you really are. And what is that? A loser." Do-hyun's voice was cruel, a small-town girl with delusions of grandeur. You thought you could compete with women like Yuri. Please, you're not even in the same league. The laughter was louder now. Soyeon felt tears threatening to fall, but she refused to give them the satisfaction. She tried to push past Yuri, but her sister grabbed her arm. "Where do you think you're going?" Yuri demanded. "We're not done with you. Let me go." "Or what? What are you going to do, Soyeon? Run back to your little lab and cry? That's all you're good for?" "I have a boyfriend," Soyeon heard herself say. The words came out before she could stop them. The laughter stopped. Everyone stared at her. "Oh?" Do-yoon raised an eyebrow. "And who is this imaginary man?" "He's not imaginary." Soyeon's heart was pounding, but she forced her voice to stay steady. "His name is Cha Min-ho." The moment she said it, she knew she had made a terrible mistake. The name had come to her randomly, something she had heard whispered among the guests earlier. But from the way Do-hyun and Yuri's faces changed, she realized she had said something significant. Cha Min-ho. Yuri laughed incredulously. The Cha Min-ho? CEO of Hansung Group? The richest bachelor in Korea? You're joking, right? Everyone knows Cha Min-ho isn't interested in women, someone in the crowd said. He's rejected every socialite in Seoul. Exactly, another person added. How dare you fantasize about Mr. Cha? You're way out of your league. Making up stories about Mr. Cha, you're asking for trouble, a third voice chimed in. His family could destroy you. Soyeon, please. Do-hyun shook his head mockingly. Lying about dating one of the richest men in Korea? That's desperate even for you. I'm not lying, she insisted, but her voice wavered. Then where is he? Yuri gestured around the room. If you're really dating Cha Min-ho, why isn't he here with you? The crowd pressed closer, eager to witness her downfall. Soyeon felt trapped, like an animal surrounded by predators. There was no way out. No escape. Stop. The voice came from behind Soyeon, deep and commanding. The crowd parted immediately, as if responding to an unspoken authority. She spun around. The man standing there was tall, easily over 6 feet, with broad shoulders and a face that seemed carved from marble. His dark eyes swept over the scene with an intensity that made everyone take an unconscious step back. He was wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, and on his collar was a small pin bearing the logo of Hansung Group. Whispers erupted through the crowd. Oh my God, is that really him? Cha Min-ho, the young master himself. What is he doing here? The man ignored the whispers. His gaze settled on Soyeon, with an expression she couldn't read. You said I'm your boyfriend? He asked. Why don't you recognize me now? Soyeon's mind went blank. This was actually Cha Min-ho, the man she had randomly named as her boyfriend, and he was standing right in front of her, apparently playing along with her lie. She's been lying about knowing you, sir, Do-hyun said quickly, trying to recover the situation. She claimed you were her boyfriend, but obviously that's impossible. Impossible? Minho's eyebrow rose slightly. Why would it be impossible? Well, because. Look at her. Do-hyun gestured at Soyeon dismissively. She's a nobody, just a country girl with no connections. And you are? Kang Do-hyun. Do-hyun puffed up his chest, son of Kang Industries. Minho's voice was flat. The company that's been begging Hansung for a partnership for the past 2 years. Without success. Do-hyun's face went pale. You didn't mean to insult my girlfriend in front of the entire Seoul elite? Minho stepped forward, and the crowd shuffled back even further. Interesting. Your girlfriend? Yuri's voice was shrill. That's impossible. She was just making it up. There's no way you would actually date someone like her. Without warning, Minho stepped forward, cupped Soyeon's face in his hands, and kissed her. The kiss was thorough and possessive, leaving her breathless and stunned. His lips were warm against hers, and he smelled like expensive cologne and something uniquely his own. When he pulled back, he kept one arm around her waist, anchoring her against his side. "Let me formally introduce you to this woman," he said to the stunned crowd. "She is my girlfriend, Han Soyeon." The ballroom had gone completely silent. Then the whispers started, rushing through the crowd like wildfire. "No way. This can't be real. Mr. Cha actually has a girlfriend? She must have done something to trap him. Is this some kind of trick?" Grandmother Cha, watching from across the room, smiled with satisfaction. She had sent Minho to this party hoping he would find someone. It seemed her prayers had been answered. "Do-hyun," Yuri was tugging at his arm desperately. "Say something. Do something." But Do-hyun was frozen, his face white with shock and fear. He knew exactly how powerful the Cha family was. One word from Minho, and his family's company would be finished. "You," Minho addressed Do-hyun directly, his voice cold as ice. "You were dating my girlfriend behind my back?" "What?" Do-hyun looked terrified. "I had no idea. I didn't know she was with you. We broke up months ago, I swear." "You broke up with her?" Minho's expression didn't change. "You abandoned this woman?" "After proposing to her." "How do you know about that?" Do-hyun stammered. "I know everything about the people who try to hurt what's mine." Minho stepped closer, and Do-hyun stumbled backward. "Let me make something very clear. If you or anyone in your family ever speaks to Soyeon again, if you so much as look in her direction, I will personally ensure that Kang Industries becomes a footnote in business history. Am I understood?" "Yes. Yes, sir." "Completely understood." Minho turned to Yuri. "The same goes for you. I didn't. I mean, she's my sister." "Stepsister," Soyeon corrected. "And barely that." Minho looked at her, a hint of approval in his eyes. "It seems you have things to say." Soyeon straightened her spine, drawing strength from the solid presence beside her. She looked at Yuri, at Do-hyun, at the crowd that had been so eager to see her humiliated. "You asked what I was going to do," she said. "Here's your answer. I'm going to leave this party with my boyfriend. I'm going to have a wonderful evening, and I'm going to forget that any of you exist." She felt Minho's arm tighten around her waist in silent support. "Shall we, darling?" he asked. "Yes. Let's go." They walked out of the ballroom together, leaving chaos in their wake. As soon as they reached the quiet corridor outside, Soyeon pulled away from him. "What was that?" she demanded, her heart still racing. "I believe I just saved you from a very embarrassing situation." He leaned against the wall, regarding her with cool amusement. "You're welcome. I didn't ask for your help. And why did you kiss me? You named me as your boyfriend, publicly, in front of half of Seoul's elite." He raised an eyebrow. "Would you have preferred I called you a liar?" Soyeon opened her mouth to argue, then closed it again. He had a point. If he had denied knowing her, the humiliation would have been complete. "Why?" she asked instead. "Why help me? You don't even know me." Something shifted in his expression. "Let's just say I have my own reasons." He pulled out his phone as it buzzed, glancing at the screen. His jaw tightened. "I came to this party for a specific purpose, to find a woman to bring home." "To find a woman? At a party?" "My grandmother," he explained, his voice taking on a different tone. "She's been ill for years. Her only wish is to see me settle down before she dies. She specifically insisted I attend tonight and bring a woman back, or she said she would pass away tonight from the stress. That sounds dramatic. You haven't met my grandmother. She's stubborn enough to will herself to death just to prove a point." Minho's jaw tightened. "My assistant just messaged me. She collapsed an hour ago. The doctors are with her now." "Oh, God. Is she okay?" "I don't know." He looked at Soyeon, something calculating in his gaze. "But when I saw you claim to be my girlfriend, I thought perhaps fate was offering me a solution to both our problems. Both our problems? You need protection from your family's schemes. I need someone to reassure my grandmother. He paused. I'm offering you a business arrangement. You pretend to be my girlfriend. I protect you from people like your sister and her pathetic boyfriend. Soyeon's mind raced. This was insane. She had just met this man, knew nothing about him except that he was impossibly wealthy and notoriously private. What exactly would I have to do? Come home with me tonight. Meet my grandmother. Convince her that we're genuinely together. If she believes it, her stress will decrease, and her health should stabilize. And for how long would this arrangement last? Until my grandmother is well, or until she passes, whichever comes first. His voice was matter-of-fact, but Soyeon heard the pain beneath it. She doesn't have much time left. And in return, name your price. Soyeon thought about her secret research, the Dr. S.H. project that was on the verge of a breakthrough. The funding had been tight since she refused to reveal her identity to investors. A large sum would solve all of her problems, would let her finish the research that could help millions of people. 500 million won, she said. Minho didn't even blink. Done. Just like that? My grandmother's peace of mind is worth far more than money. He held out his hand. Do we have a deal? Soyeon looked at his outstretched hand, at this stranger who had appeared out of nowhere and offered to change her life. Every instinct told her this was a terrible idea. But what choice did she have? Return to the ballroom and face more humiliation? Go back to her struggling research with inadequate funding? Deal, she said, taking his hand. His grip was firm and warm. Good. My car is waiting outside. Wait. Right now? My grandmother is dying. We don't have time to waste. The Cha family estate in Pyeongchang-dong was like nothing Soyeon had ever seen. As the car wound through the tree-lined driveway, she tried to take in the sprawling grounds. The blend of traditional Korean architecture with modern elegance, the gardens that seemed to stretch to the horizon. This is where you live? When I'm in Seoul. Minho didn't look up from his phone. My grandmother prefers the main residence. I usually stay in the East Wing. The East Wing. Like a normal person might say, the spare bedroom. They were met at the entrance by a butler in an immaculate uniform and several staff members who bowed respectfully. Master Minho, the butler said, his face grave. Madam is in the main hall. The doctors are saying it's serious. She's asking for you. How bad is it? Very bad, sir. She stopped breathing for almost a minute. They managed to revive her, but she's very weak. Minho's face went pale. Take me to her. They hurried through the mansion, through corridors lined with priceless artwork and antiques. Soyeon struggled to keep up, her heels clicking against the marble floors. The main hall had been transformed into something like a hospital room. Medical equipment surrounded a large bed where an elderly woman lay motionless, her eyes closed, her breathing shallow. Doctors and nurses moved around her with quiet efficiency. Grandmother. Minho rushed to her side, taking her thin hand. Grandmother, I'm here. No response. Grandmother. His voice was desperate now. Wake up. Please. Still nothing. Soyeon moved closer, her medical training overriding her nervousness. She gently pushed past one of the doctors and placed her fingers on the old woman's neck, checking her pulse. It was there, but barely. Faint and irregular. Too faint. What's her condition? Soyeon asked the nearest doctor. Who are you? He demanded. I'm a doctor. Answer the question. Cardiac arrhythmia complicated by respiratory distress, the doctor said reluctantly. We've stabilized her for now, but her heart is very weak. She could go at any moment. Soyeon leaned closer to the old woman, examining her carefully. The symptoms were consistent with something she had seen before. Something that most doctors wouldn't recognize. How long since she lost consciousness? About 45 minutes. And the breathing? How long was she not breathing? Just under a minute, according to the monitors. Soyeon's mind raced. If this was what she thought it was, there might still be a chance. But she would have to act fast. "Everyone step back," she ordered. "Excuse me?" The doctor looked offended. "Who do you think you are? I'm someone who might be able to save her life. Now step back. Do as she says." Minho's voice was quiet, but commanding. "Everyone." The medical staff retreated, though they looked skeptical. Soyeon opened her purse and pulled out a small case she always carried. Her acupuncture needles. "What are you doing?" Minho demanded. "Is this some kind of traditional medicine quackery?" "Trust me," Soyeon said. "I know what I'm doing." She didn't wait for a response. Working quickly, she inserted needles at precise points on the elderly woman's body. This was a technique she had developed herself, combining traditional Eastern medicine with modern neurological knowledge. It was the foundation of her secret research as Dr. S.H., designed to reset the cardiac and neurological systems in cases of profound shock. The seconds stretched into minutes. Everyone watched in tense silence. Then Grandmother Cha's eyes flew open. She gasped, drawing in a deep breath, her hands flying up from the bed. "What happened?" she demanded. "Why is everyone staring at me?" "Grandmother." Minho fell to his knees beside her, tears streaming down his face. "You're alive. You're really alive. Of course I'm alive. Why wouldn't I be alive?" The old woman tried to sit up, looking confused and annoyed. "What's going on? And who is this young woman with the needles?" "She saved your life," Minho said, his voice thick with emotion. "Grandmother, you stopped breathing. Your heart nearly gave out." Grandmother Cha blinked slowly, processing this information. Then she looked at Soyeon with sharp, assessing eyes. "You saved me? I just used techniques from my research." Soyeon tried to stay calm despite her racing heart. "Nothing special." "Nothing special?" "You brought my grandmother back from the dead," Minho said. "That's more than special." "She wasn't technically dead," Soyeon clarified. "It was a state of profound shock that mimics death. The heart slows to almost nothing. Breathing becomes imperceptible. Most doctors would declare the patient deceased. But if you catch it within 30 minutes and apply the right stimulus to the right pressure points, the system can be reset." "And you just happen to know this technique?" The senior doctor looked skeptical. "What medical school teaches this?" "I developed it myself." Soyeon met his gaze steadily. "Based on years of research into neurological and cardiac connections." The doctor was about to argue, but Grandmother Cha cut him off. "Enough." She waved her hand imperiously. "I don't care where she learned it. I care that I'm alive. Now, someone help me sit up properly, and get me some tea. Dying is thirsty work." As the staff scrambled to follow orders, Grandmother Cha fixed her attention on Soyeon. "Come closer, child. Let me look at you." Soyeon approached the bed, acutely aware of the old woman's piercing gaze. "You have steady hands," Grandmother Cha observed. "And you didn't panic. Even when everyone else was falling apart, you stayed calm and did what needed to be done." She nodded slowly. "I like that." "Thank you, Grandmother. Now tell me, who are you, and why are you here with my grandson?" Soyeon hesitated, glancing at Minho. He gave her a slight nod. "I'm Han Soyeon," she said. "I'm Minho's girlfriend." Grandmother Cha's eyebrows rose. "Girlfriend? My grandson who has rejected every woman in Korea suddenly has a girlfriend?" "I know it's unexpected," Minho said, stepping forward. "But Soyeon and I have been together for several months. I was waiting for the right time to introduce you." The old woman studied them both with unsettling perception. "Several months, you say? And in all that time, you never thought to mention this to your dying grandmother? I wanted to make sure it was serious before getting your hopes up." Grandmother Cha didn't look convinced. but she didn't press further. Well, you've certainly made an impression, young lady, saving my life on our first meeting. That's quite an introduction. I'm glad I could help. You're a doctor, I assume? Based on what you just did? Yes. I specialize in neurological research. Soyeon chose her words carefully, not wanting to reveal too much. Neurological research. Grandmother Cha's eyes sharpened. That's interesting. I've been following the work of a certain Dr. S.H. in that field. Brilliant researcher. Revolutionary theories. Have you heard of her? Soyeon felt her heart skip. Of course. Everyone in the field knows about Dr. S.H. They say she's developed treatments that could help millions of people with brain diseases, but no one knows who she really is. Grandmother Cha tilted her head. You wouldn't happen to have any ideas, would you? I'm sure she has her reasons for staying anonymous. I'm sure she does. The old woman smiled, and there was something knowing in her expression. Well, regardless, you saved my life, and for that, I'm grateful. You may stay as long as you like. Thank you, grandmother. Now help me up. I want to have dinner with my grandson and his mysterious girlfriend. We have much to discuss. Dinner at the Cha estate was unlike anything Soyeon had experienced. The formal dining room seated 30 people, though tonight it was just the 3 of them. The table was laden with dishes that looked like works of art, prepared by what she could only assume was a team of professional chefs. So, Miss Han, Grandmother Cha said, delicately lifting a piece of braised beef, tell me about your family. Soyeon set down her chopsticks. There's not much to tell. My mother died when I was young. My father remarried. I grew up mostly on my own. On your own? What about your stepmother, your siblings? We have a complicated relationship. Soyeon kept her voice neutral. They prefer to pretend I don't exist. And yet you're clearly educated, accomplished, a doctor and researcher. That doesn't happen by accident. I worked hard. Scholarships, part-time jobs, a lot of sleepless nights. Soyeon met the old woman's gaze directly. Everything I have, I earned myself. Grandmother Cha nodded slowly. I can respect that. Too many young people today expect things to be handed to them. She glanced at Minho. Unlike my grandson, who has never had to struggle for anything in his life. That's not entirely fair, grandmother. Minho's voice was mild. I work hard. Yes. Running the company I built. Such a burden. But her eyes were twinkling, and Soyeon realized this was a familiar exchange between them. She turned back to Soyeon. How did you two meet? My grandson doesn't exactly socialize. Soyeon glanced at Minho, and he gave her a slight nod. We met at a medical conference, she said, improvising. Minho's company was sponsoring the event, and I was presenting my research. And it was love at first sight? Grandmother Cha sounded skeptical, more like intense dislike. Soyeon smiled at the memory she was inventing. He questioned every aspect of my presentation, challenged my methodology, told me my conclusions were flawed. I did no such thing, Minho protested, though he was playing along. I merely asked some probing questions. You made me defend every single data point for over an hour. I was impressed by your work. I wanted to understand it better. You were trying to catch me in an error. Grandmother Cha watched this exchange with growing amusement. And this somehow led to romance? It led to dinner, Soyeon said. He apologized for being aggressive, and I apologized for calling him an arrogant corporate shark. You called him what? She was not wrong. Minho shrugged. I can be aggressive about things I'm interested in. The old woman laughed, a genuine, delighted sound. Oh, I like her. She has spirit, and she doesn't treat you like you're some kind of god. That's rare. The conversation continued through the meal. Grandmother Cha skillfully extracting information about Soyeon's life, her work, her hopes for the future. Soyeon found herself being more honest than she had intended. There was something about the old woman that made deception feel impossible. By the time the meal ended, Soyeon was exhausted but also strangely content. Whatever else happened, she had made it through her first test. "You'll stay in the blue room," Grandmother Cha announced as they stood to leave the table. "It's next to my grandson's chambers. More convenient." "More convenient for what?" Soyeon asked before she could stop herself. "For late-night conversations, of course." The old woman's eyes twinkled. "What did you think I meant?" Minho coughed, looking uncomfortable. "Grandmother. Don't grandmother me. I may be old, but I'm not naive. You two are together, aren't you? You don't need to pretend to be proper on my account. We weren't going to. We aren't." Minho was actually blushing. "This is not a conversation I want to have with you." Grandmother Cha laughed and patted his cheek. "My darling boy, so easily flustered." She turned to Soyeon. "Take care of him, dear. He pretends to be cold, but underneath, he's just a boy who needs love. I'll do my best. I know you will." The old woman leaned in close and whispered, "And don't think I don't know exactly who you are, Dr. S.H. We'll talk more tomorrow." Before Soyeon could react, Grandmother Cha swept out of the room, leaving her standing there in shock. "What did she say?" Minho asked. "Nothing." Soyeon forced a smile. "Just more advice about taking care of you." But inside, her mind was racing. Grandmother Cha knew her secret. The question was, what was she going to do about it? The blue room was more of a suite than a bedroom. It had a sitting area, a private bathroom with a tub the size of a small pool, and a bed that could have comfortably slept a family of 4. Soyeon stood in the center of it, trying to process everything that had happened. A knock at the door made her jump. "Can I come in?" Minho's voice. "Yes." He entered, still wearing his suit from dinner, though he had loosened his tie. "Are you settling in all right? This room is bigger than my entire apartment." He smiled slightly. "My grandmother likes to make an impression. She certainly does." Soyeon turned to face him. "Minho, she knows who I am. Dr. S.H. "I know." He didn't seem surprised. "She's been following your research for years. She suspected the moment you used that technique to save her. Why didn't you warn me? I didn't know she would figure it out so quickly." He sat down on the edge of the bed, looking tired. "My grandmother is remarkable. She built this family from nothing, survived 2 wars, outlasted 5 presidents. There's nothing that gets past her. What is she going to do? If she tells people, she won't." Minho met her eyes steadily. "My grandmother respects secrets, and she respects people who work hard for what they believe in. If anything, knowing who you really are has made her like you more." Soyeon let out a breath she didn't know she had been holding. "This is all so overwhelming." "I know, and I'm sorry for dragging you into it." He ran a hand through his hair, a surprisingly vulnerable gesture. "When I saw you at that party, claiming to be my girlfriend, I saw an opportunity. I didn't think about how complicated this would become. Why did you help me?" "Really?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Because you looked like I feel," he said finally. "Trapped, surrounded by people who only want to use you for what you can give them. I saw you standing there, facing down those vultures, and I thought you might actually be real. Not like everyone else in that world. I'm not sure I am real. Not the way you need me to be." Soyeon sat down beside him. "This relationship, whatever we're pretending it is, I don't know if I can be what your grandmother wants. You already are." He looked at her, and there was something in his eyes that made her breath catch. "You saved her life, Soyeon. That's more than anyone in this family has done in years. I was just doing what I was trained to do." "No. You did more than that. You cared. In a family where everyone is maneuvering for position, where every kindness comes with a price tag, you cared about a stranger you had just met. Do you have any idea how rare that is?" Soyeon didn't know what to say. She had never thought of herself as particularly special, Just someone who worked hard and tried to do the right thing. I should let you rest, Minho said, standing. Tomorrow will be another long day. My aunt and cousin are arriving in the morning. They will not be friendly. Aunt and cousin? My mother's sister, Yeonhwa, and her daughter Jimin. They've been trying to take control of the family business for years. My grandmother is the only one standing in their way. And they'll see me as a threat. They'll see you as an opportunity, either to use you against me or to destroy you as a message. Either way, you need to be careful. Soyeon nodded slowly. I can handle threats. I believe you can. He paused at the door. Good night, Dr. Han. Good night, Mr. Cha. The next morning, Soyeon woke to find a tray of breakfast waiting for her, along with a note from Grandmother Cha. Join me in the garden for tea. We have much to discuss. The garden was a masterpiece of traditional Korean design, with carefully arranged stones, a gentle stream, and flowering trees that filled the air with perfume. Grandmother Cha was sitting in a small pavilion, surrounded by cushions, looking remarkably healthy for someone who had nearly died the night before. Ah, there you are. She gestured for Soyeon to sit. Come, have some tea. You look much better this morning, Grandmother. I feel better. Whatever you did last night, it seems to have done more than just save my life. I haven't had this much energy in years. She poured 2 cups of tea with steady hands. Now, let us discuss your situation. My situation? You are pretending to be my grandson's girlfriend. You are secretly the most brilliant medical researcher of your generation, and you are hiding from a family that has treated you cruelly your entire life. Grandmother Cha sipped her tea calmly. That is quite a situation. Soyeon didn't bother to deny any of it. How long have you known about Dr. S.H.? I suspected from the moment I read your first paper. The writing style, the way you think, the connections you make, it's distinctive. When Minho brought you here last night and you used that technique, I was certain. Why didn't you say anything? Because it wasn't my secret to reveal. Grandmother Cha set down her cup. I have many faults, but betraying a confidence is not one of them. Your identity is safe with me. Thank you. However, the old woman's eyes sharpened. I need to know what your intentions are with my grandson. Soyeon hesitated. We have an arrangement. I am aware of that. Minho may think he's being clever, but I know my grandson. He would not bring a woman home unless there was a good reason. She leaned forward. What I want to know is whether your arrangement is purely business, or whether there is something more. I don't know how to answer that. Soyeon chose her words carefully. We've only known each other for a few hours. And yet, in those few hours, you saved my life, stood up to his bullying relatives, and managed to make him smile. 3 things no other woman has ever accomplished. Grandmother Cha smiled. I think there is more between you than either of you realizes. Before Soyeon could respond, a commotion from the house drew their attention. Voices, raised in argument. Grandmother Cha sighed. That would be my niece and her daughter, right on schedule to cause trouble. Cha Yeonhwa swept into the garden like a storm, her daughter Jimin close behind. They were both impeccably dressed, their faces arranged in expressions of concern that didn't reach their eyes. Aunt, grandmother. Yeonhwa gasped dramatically. We heard you were ill. We came as soon as we could. Ill? Grandmother Cha raised an eyebrow. I feel perfectly fine. But the reports said you collapsed, that you nearly died. Reports can be exaggerated. The old woman smiled serenely. As you can see, I am very much alive. Jimin's eyes landed on Soyeon. And who is this? This is Han Soyeon, Minho's girlfriend. The reaction was immediate. Yeonhwa's face went rigid, and Jimin's eyes narrowed dangerously. Girlfriend? Yeonhwa's voice was sharp. Since when does Minho have a girlfriend? Since he brought her home last night. Grandmother Cha's voice was mild, but there was steel beneath it. She saved my life, actually. Used some remarkable medical techniques. Medical techniques? Jimin laughed derisively. What? Is she some kind of nurse? I'm a doctor, Soyeon said. And a researcher. A doctor. Jimin looked her up and down dismissively. From where? Seoul National University. With additional training abroad. How nice. Jimin's smile was poisonous. And how exactly did you meet my cousin? Let me guess. Some medical conference where you threw yourself at the richest man in the room? Actually, Soyeon said, keeping her voice calm. He approached me. I wasn't particularly impressed. Grandmother Cha laughed. Oh, I do like her. Mother, Yeonhwa said tightly, surely you don't believe this story. A nobody doctor from nowhere, suddenly dating the heir to Hansung Group? It's obviously a scam. A scam that saved my life. Grandmother Cha's eyes were cold. Unless you're suggesting that was faked as well. I'm just saying we should be careful. There are people who would do anything to get close to this family. And there are people already in this family who would do anything to take control of it. Grandmother Cha stood, and despite her small stature, she seemed to tower over everyone. I am still the head of this household. I will decide who is welcome here and who is not. Han Soyeon is welcome. That is final. Yeonhwa opened her mouth to argue, but something in the old woman's expression stopped her. Yes, grandmother. We were just concerned for the family's well-being. Your concern is noted and dismissed. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to rest. Soyeon, dear, would you help me back to my room? Of course, grandmother. As they walked away, Soyeon could feel Jimin and Yeonhwa's hostile gazes boring into her back. Don't let them frighten you, Grandmother Cha murmured. They bark loud, but their teeth are not as sharp as they think. I'm not frightened, just prepared. Good. The old woman patted her arm. You'll need that strength for what comes next. The next few days established a pattern. Mornings with Grandmother Cha, who proved to be a fascinating companion with sharp intellect and endless stories. Afternoons in a makeshift laboratory that Minho had set up in one of the estate's outbuildings, where Soyeon could continue her research. Evenings with the family, navigating the complicated dynamics between those who supported the arrangement and those who wanted to destroy it. Yeonhwa and Jimin were relentless in their attacks, questioning Soyeon's background, her credentials, her motives. But with Grandmother Cha firmly in her corner, they couldn't do more than snipe and insinuate. What surprised Soyeon most was Minho. He had seemed so cold and controlled at first, but as the days passed, she began to see past his businessman's mask. The way he checked on his grandmother multiple times a day. The way he brought Soyeon coffee when she worked late in the lab, staying to ask questions about her research. The way he positioned himself between her and Jimin whenever they were in the same room. One evening, about a week into her stay, Soyeon was working late in the lab when she heard a knock at the door. Come in. Minho entered, carrying a tray with tea and sandwiches. You missed dinner. I lost track of time. She gestured at the equipment around her. I think I'm close to a breakthrough. Your research on neural regeneration? Yes. She was surprised he remembered. If I can stabilize the protein chains, it could be revolutionary. Treatment for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, maybe even stroke recovery. Minho set down the tray and moved closer, studying the data on her computer screen. Explain it to me. So she did. She expected him to lose interest after a few minutes, but he listened intently, asking questions that showed he actually understood what she was saying. You're remarkable, he said when she finished. I'm just a scientist. No. You're someone who's going to change the world. He looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. I've met a lot of brilliant people. CEOs, inventors, artists. None of them have what you have. What do I have? Purpose. You're not doing this for money or fame. You're doing it because you genuinely want to help people. He shook his head. I don't think I've ever met anyone like you. Soyeon felt heat rise to her cheeks. You don't know me that well. I'm starting to. And I'd like to know you better. He paused. Not just as part of our arrangement, as who you really are. The air between them felt suddenly charged. Soyeon was acutely aware of how close he was standing, how his eyes had softened from their usual cool assessment to something warmer. Minho, this isn't a good idea. Probably not. But he didn't move away. For once in my life, I don't want to do the smart thing. I want to do the thing that feels right. And what feels right? This. He kissed her. Not like that calculated performance at the party. This was slow, questioning, giving her every opportunity to pull away. When she didn't, when she instead leaned into him, his arms came around her and the kiss deepened. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. That wasn't part of the arrangement, Soyeon said. No. He rested his forehead against hers. It wasn't. What happens now? I don't know. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked uncertain. I've never done this before. Any of this. Neither have I. She took a shaky breath. We should probably talk about it. We should. But maybe not tonight. Then what should we do tonight? He smiled, and it transformed his face. Whatever we want. Outside the lab window, neither of them noticed the shadow that slipped away into the darkness. Jimin had seen everything. The next morning, Grandmother Cha called a family meeting. I have been thinking about the future, she announced to the assembled relatives, about what will happen to this family when I am gone. Yeonhwa leaned forward eagerly. Yes, Mother, I have decided that Minho will officially take over as head of the family. However, there is a condition. What condition? Minho asked. I will only transfer control to you when you are married. Grandmother Cha's eyes twinkled. To someone who understands the value of our legacy. The room erupted in murmurs. Yeonhwa and Jimin exchanged glances, their expressions calculating. Mother, Yeonhwa said smoothly, surely we should take time to find Minho a suitable match. Someone from a proper family, with appropriate connections. He has already found someone suitable. Grandmother Cha looked at Soyeon. Unless I'm mistaken. All eyes turned to Soyeon. She felt her heart pounding, aware that everyone was waiting for her response. Minho took her hand. Whatever happens, we decide together. Soyeon looked at him, at this man she had known for barely a week, but who had somehow become important to her. She thought about her research, her independence, her carefully constructed life. Then she thought about the way he made her feel. Safe, valued, seen. It's not my decision alone to make, she said carefully. Then make it with me. Minho's voice was steady, his eyes never leaving hers. Marry me. Not because of arrangements or business deals, because you want to. Grandmother Cha was beaming. Jimin looked like she had swallowed something bitter. Yeonhwa's face was carefully blank. Soyeon took a deep breath. Yes, she said. I'll marry you. The room exploded in chaos. Some congratulating, some protesting, everyone talking at once. But Soyeon barely heard any of it. All she could see was Minho's smile, brighter than she had ever seen it, as he pulled her into his arms. The wedding preparations moved with breathtaking speed. Grandmother Cha insisted that the ceremony happen within 3 days, claiming she wanted to see her grandson married before anything else could go wrong. But Yeonhwa and Jimin had not given up. On the morning of the wedding, Soyeon was in her dressing room, being fitted for the traditional hanbok she would wear, when Yuri appeared at the door. Her half-sister looked almost friendly, which immediately put Soyeon on guard. Soyeon, she said sweetly, I know we've had our differences, but I wanted to wish you well on your wedding day. How did you get in here? Jimin invited me. We're friends, actually. Small world, isn't it? Yuri held out a delicate cup filled with fragrant liquid. I brought you some tea, a peace offering, for good luck. Soyeon eyed the cup suspiciously. Every instinct screamed danger. I'm not thirsty. Come on, don't be like that. It's just tea. Yuri's smile didn't waver. Unless you're afraid of a simple cup of tea? Soyeon thought quickly. If she refused outright, Yuri would know she suspected something. But if she pretended to drink it, she might learn what they were planning. She took the cup and raised it to her lips, letting the liquid touch them without actually swallowing. She recognized the slightly sweet, slightly bitter taste immediately. There, she said, handing back the empty cup. Happy now? Very. Yuri practically ran out of the room, barely containing her glee. The moment she was gone, Soyeon spat into a tissue. Someone had put something in that tea, something designed to incapacitate her. She waited. An hour later, exactly as she expected, she heard a commotion outside her dressing room. Voices raised in alarm, running footsteps, a man's confused protests. Soyeon opened the door. In the hallway, security guards were dragging a disheveled-looking man away from a room down the corridor. And emerging from that room, looking horrified and disheveled herself, was Yuri. What's going on? Soyeon asked innocently. The butler stepped forward. We found this man in what we thought was your dressing room, Miss Han. He appears to have been waiting to attack you. Attack me? Soyeon looked at Yuri. But I'm over here. It took a moment for understanding to dawn. Yuri's face went white. You switched rooms, Minho said, appearing in the hallway. His face was thunderous. You knew they were planning something, so you let them spring their own trap. They tried to drug me. Soyeon met Yuri's eyes steadily. And they hired this man to attack me. But they didn't realize I never drank the tea. The man was talking now, spilling everything in his panic. Yuri and Jimin had paid him, he said. They wanted to ruin the bride before the wedding, destroy her reputation, make Minho reject her. Is this true? Grandmother Cha had appeared, leaning on a cane but radiating fury. You tried to have my grandson's fiancée assaulted? I didn't. It wasn't supposed to. Jimin was trying to explain, but the evidence was damning. Get them out. Minho's voice was ice. Both of them. And make sure the police know exactly what they planned. As Jimin and Yuri were dragged away, their protests echoing through the halls, Soyeon felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Her enemies had finally been defeated. Are you all right? Minho was at her side, his hands checking her for injuries. I'm fine. She smiled up at him. Better than fine, actually. Ready to get married. The wedding was beautiful. Grandmother Cha had outdone herself, transforming the estate gardens into a fairy tale setting. White flowers everywhere, delicate lanterns hanging from trees, a string quartet playing softly as guests looked on. Soyeon walked down the aisle in a hanbok that had belonged to Minho's mother, feeling like she was stepping into a new life. And when she reached the altar and saw Minho waiting for her, his eyes bright with emotion, she knew she had made the right choice. The vows they exchanged were simple, but heartfelt. I promise to stand beside you through every challenge, Minho said, to support your dreams, to celebrate your victories, and to love you for exactly who you are. And I promise to be honest with you always, Soyeon replied, to push you to be better, to call you out when you're being impossible, and to love you even when you think you don't deserve it. When they kissed, the crowd erupted in cheers. Grandmother Cha wiped tears from her eyes, and somewhere in the back, Soyeon's friend Minji was sobbing loudly into a handkerchief. 1 year later, Soyeon stood at a podium in front of hundreds of reporters and cameras. The secret of Dr. S.H. was finally being revealed. I have spent the last decade working in anonymity, she said, her voice steady despite her nerves. I believed that my work should speak for itself, without the distraction of fame or publicity. But today, with the support of my family and my husband, I am ready to step into the light. Behind her, Minho watched with pride. Grandmother Cha, healthy and strong after a year of Soyeon's treatments, sat in the front row, beaming. "The treatment I have developed," Soyeon continued, "offers hope to millions of people suffering from neurodegenerative diseases. It is not a cure, but it is a beginning, and I am honored to share it with the world." The questions came fast and furious, but Soyeon handled them with grace. When asked about her relationship with Minho, about how she had kept her secret for so long, about what came next, she answered honestly and without pretension. Later that night, in the quiet of their home, Minho wrapped his arms around her. "You were magnificent today. I was terrified. It didn't show." He kissed her temple. "I'm so proud of you." Soyeon leaned into his embrace, feeling the rightness of it. "Do you remember the night we met? When I was standing in that ballroom, about to be humiliated? I remember thinking you were the most real person in that room. And I remember thinking you were an arrogant jerk who I would never see again." He laughed. "I've improved since then, I hope. Marginally." She turned in his arms, smiling up at him. "Thank you. For believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. You never needed me to believe in you. You were always enough on your own. I'm just lucky you let me walk beside you." They stood together, watching the city lights through their window. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new adventures. But for now, this moment was perfect. 3 years later, in the garden where they had married, Soyeon and Minho celebrated the birth of their first child. Little Jisoo had his father's eyes and his mother's stubborn determination. "She's perfect," Grandmother Cha said, cradling her great-granddaughter. "Absolutely perfect. Takes after her mother," Minho said, wrapping an arm around Soyeon's shoulders, "and her father." Soyeon leaned into him. "She's going to change the world someday." "Of course she is." Grandmother Cha smiled. "She comes from a family of world changers." Outside, the setting sun painted the sky in shades of gold and pink. Inside, the family gathered together, bound by love and loyalty, and the knowledge that the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. A desperate lie at a party, a kiss from a stranger, a deal that became a partnership that became love. Han Soyeon had walked into that ballroom expecting to be humiliated. Instead, she had found everything she never knew she needed. And that, in the end, was the greatest discovery of all. The evening after the wedding, Grandmother Cha insisted on making a special soup for the newlyweds. "It's an old family tradition," she explained with a twinkle in her eye. "For health and prosperity." Soyeon found the gesture sweet, if a bit old-fashioned. She and Minho sat together in the small family dining room, 2 steaming bowls of fragrant broth before them. "Drink it all," Grandmother Cha urged. "Every drop. It took me hours to prepare." "Grandmother, you should be resting," Minho protested. "You just recovered from your illness." "Nonsense. Making soup for my grandson's wedding night is the least I can do." She watched them expectantly. "Go on. Drink." Soyeon lifted her spoon, but something made her pause. The smell was familiar, beyond just the usual herbs. There was something else in there, something she recognized from her medical training. She glanced at Minho, who had already taken several sips, and was looking slightly flushed. "Grandmother," she said carefully, "what exactly is in this soup?" "Just herbs and vegetables. Good for the blood." Grandmother Cha's expression was innocent, but there was a knowing gleam in her eye. "Family recipe." Soyeon took a small taste, letting the liquid touch her tongue without swallowing. Her suspicions were confirmed. "Grandmother," she said, setting down her spoon, "did you put something special in this soup?" "I'm sure I don't know what you mean." Minho was looking increasingly uncomfortable, tugging at his collar. "Is it warm in here?" "I feel very warm." "What did you put in his soup?" Soyeon demanded. "Just a little something to help things along." Grandmother Cha was completely unrepentant. You're newlyweds. I want great-grandchildren. Is that so wrong? Grandmother. Minho's face was red, though whether from embarrassment or the herbs was unclear. Oh, don't be such a prude. In my day, we didn't wait around for things to happen naturally. We gave nature a push. She stood up, gathering her things. Now, I'm going to bed. You two enjoy your evening. She swept out of the room, leaving Soyeon and Minho staring at each other in disbelief. Did my grandmother just try to drug us with aphrodisiacs? Minho asked. I believe she did. I'm so sorry. I had no idea she would. It's actually kind of sweet, in a completely inappropriate way. Soyeon found herself laughing. She really wants those great-grandchildren. Minho groaned, covering his face with his hands. This is mortifying. Look at it this way. At least she likes me enough to want me to have your babies. That's not making it better. Soyeon reached across the table and took his hand. Come on, let's get some fresh air. The effects will wear off in an hour or so. They walked together through the moonlit gardens, the cool night air helping to clear the herbs from their systems. Eventually, they found themselves in a small pavilion overlooking a koi pond. Can I ask you something? Soyeon said. Anything. When you kissed me at the party, that first night, what were you thinking? Minho was quiet for a moment. Honestly, I wasn't thinking. I saw you standing there, facing down those people who were trying to hurt you, and something just clicked. I wanted to help. I wanted to protect you. I didn't plan the kiss. It just happened. And since then, every moment I spend with you makes me want another moment. And another. He turned to face her fully. Soyeon, I know this started as an arrangement. I know we haven't known each other very long. But I've never felt this way about anyone. I've never wanted to be with someone the way I want to be with you. Soyeon felt her heart racing. What way is that? Every way. He stepped closer, his hands coming up to cup her face. As my partner, my confidant, my wife. He paused. My love. Love? The word sent a shiver through her. Is that so hard to believe? Yes. No. I don't know. She closed her eyes, overwhelmed. I've spent so long protecting myself, keeping people at a distance. I don't know how to let someone in. Then let me show you. He pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. We'll take it slow as you need. I'm not going anywhere. She opened her eyes and looked at him. This man who had appeared out of nowhere and turned her life upside down. Who had defended her against her enemies, supported her work, and somehow fallen in love with her along the way. I don't want slow, she said. I want you. The kiss that followed was nothing like their first staged performance. This was real, passionate, full of all the emotion they had been holding back. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Minho smiled. Still think my grandmother's soup was inappropriate? I think your grandmother is a genius. In the weeks that followed, life settled into a comfortable rhythm. Soyeon continued her research, with Minho providing resources and support that accelerated her work beyond anything she had dreamed possible. Grandmother Cha grew stronger every day, her treatments progressing better than expected. But the defeated enemies had not given up entirely. Jimin had been exiled from the family, but she still had allies, people who resented Minho's success, who wanted to see the upstart bride brought down. They began spreading rumors, questioning Soyeon's credentials, suggesting that her research was fraudulent. The attacks came in waves, social media campaigns questioning her education, anonymous tips to medical boards suggesting she had falsified data, whispered innuendos at every social event she attended. You don't have to put up with this, Minho said one evening, after a particularly vicious article had appeared in a tabloid. We could sue them, make them retract. Soyeon shook her head. They want me to react. They want to drag me into a public fight so they can keep attacking. The best response is to let my work speak for itself. And that's exactly what happened. 3 months after the wedding, Soyeon's research finally reached its breakthrough moment. The protein chains stabilized. The neural regeneration techniques worked consistently. The treatment that had saved Grandmother Cha could now be replicated and shared with the world. The announcement was made at an international medical conference. Soyeon presented her findings to a packed auditorium of scientists, doctors, and medical professionals from around the globe. The applications of this treatment extend far beyond what we initially imagined, she explained, walking through her data with calm precision. We're seeing potential benefits for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, traumatic brain injuries, and stroke recovery. Early trials suggest we could restore function to patients who have been told their conditions are permanent. The questions came rapidly, challenging, probing, but Soyeon answered each one with the confidence of someone who had spent a decade preparing for this moment. When she finished, the applause was thunderous. The rumors and innuendos evaporated in the face of undeniable achievement. Dr. S.H. Han Soyeon had proven herself beyond any doubt. That evening, at the celebratory dinner, Grandmother Cha raised her glass. "To my granddaughter-in-law," she said, her voice strong and clear, "who has given me back my life, and who will now give life back to millions of others. I have never been more proud." To Soyeon, Minho added, his eyes shining, "the most remarkable woman I've ever known." The guests echoed the toast, their glasses raised in tribute. And Soyeon, surrounded by the family she had found in the most unexpected way, felt something she had never experienced before. She felt like she belonged. The following year brought changes none of them had anticipated. Grandmother Cha's health stabilized completely, her doctors declaring her condition remarkable for someone her age. She credited Soyeon's treatments, though Soyeon suspected the old woman's sheer stubbornness had something to do with it as well. Soyeon's research expanded into a full institute, funded by Hansung Group but operated independently. She hired researchers from around the world, all working together on treatments that could help millions. The dream she had pursued alone for so many years was finally becoming reality. And then there was Minho. Their relationship had deepened in ways Soyeon hadn't thought possible. The cool businessman she had met at the party was gone, replaced by a partner who supported her work, challenged her thinking, and made her laugh every single day. One evening, as they sat together in their private garden, Minho took her hand. "I have something to tell you," he said. "That sounds serious." "It is." He took a deep breath. "Do you remember what you said to me the night of our wedding? That you didn't know how to let someone in?" Soyeon nodded. "I think I'm finally starting to understand what you meant. My whole life, I've kept people at a distance. I learned early that most people only wanted to be close to me because of my family's money, our power. It was easier to push everyone away than to risk being hurt." He squeezed her hand. "But you've changed that. You've shown me that it's possible to let someone see the real me and still be accepted. You've taught me that love isn't about what someone can give you. It's about who they are." Soyeon felt tears prick at her eyes. "Minho, I love you," he said simply. "Not because you're brilliant, though you are. Not because you saved my grandmother, though that matters more than I can say. I love you because you're you. Stubborn and kind and impossibly determined. I love you because being with you makes me want to be a better person. I love you too," she whispered. "I think I have for longer than I realized." They sat together as the sun set, content in the knowledge that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The invitation to her father's company's anniversary gala arrived on a Tuesday morning. Soyeon almost threw it away without opening it. "You should go," Minho said when she told him about it. "Not for them, for yourself. You've accomplished so much. Let them see who you've become." Soyeon considered this. For years she had avoided her family, had built her life as far from them as possible. But perhaps Minho was right. Perhaps it was time to stop running from her past. The gala was held at the same hotel where she had first met Minho. The irony was not lost on her as she walked through the doors, this time on her husband's arm, wearing a gown that cost more than her old apartment's yearly rent. The reaction to her arrival was immediate. Whispers followed them across the room. People pointed, stared, pretended not to be watching. Soyeon. Her father appeared before them, looking older and more tired than she remembered. You came. I wasn't sure you would. Father. You look. He paused, searching for words. Different. Successful. I am successful. But not because of anything you did. She kept her voice even, without anger. I'm here because I wanted to close this chapter of my life. To show you, and everyone else who doubted me, that I didn't need your approval to succeed. Soyeon, Her father's voice broke. I'm sorry for everything. The way I treated you. The way I let your stepmother and Yuri treat you. It was wrong. I was weak, and you paid the price. Soyeon had imagined this moment 100 times. The apology, the reconciliation. In her fantasies, she had always imagined feeling vindicated, triumphant. Instead, she just felt tired. I accept your apology, she said, but I don't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. What you did, what you allowed to be done to me, that can't be erased with words. Her father nodded, his eyes glistening. I understand. But if there's ever a chance, ever a way I can make it up to you, there isn't. But I'm willing to be civil, for the sake of peace. She straightened her shoulders. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have people to meet. She walked away, Minho at her side, and felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The past was the past. She was finally free of it. 2 years after their wedding, Soyeon discovered she was pregnant. The news came as a surprise, though not an unwelcome one. Grandmother Cha was ecstatic, immediately beginning plans for the nursery, the christening, the child's entire future. You realize this child isn't even born yet, Soyeon pointed out one afternoon, as Grandmother Cha showed her yet another catalog of designer baby furniture. Details. The old woman waved her hand dismissively. Preparation is key. Minho was equally excited, though he showed it in different ways. He hired additional security for the estate, consulted with the best doctors in the country, and read every parenting book he could find. You know those are usually for after the baby is born, Soyeon said, watching him highlight passages in what to expect when you're expecting. I like to be prepared. You're going to be an amazing father. He looked up, his expression suddenly vulnerable. You really think so? I know so. She took his hand. You're going to be the father you wish you'd had. Involved, supportive, present. This child is going to be the luckiest kid in the world. The pregnancy progressed smoothly, with Soyeon continuing her work until the final weeks. When the baby finally arrived, a healthy girl with her father's eyes and her mother's stubborn determination, the Cha family estate erupted in celebration. They named her Jisoo, meaning wisdom and beauty. Grandmother Cha held her for the first time and wept. She's perfect, the old woman said. Absolutely perfect. Thank you, Soyeon. Thank you for bringing her into our lives. Thank you for accepting me into your family. Soyeon leaned against her husband, exhausted, but happy. For making me believe this was possible. Minho wrapped his arms around both of them, his wife and his daughter. This is everything I ever wanted, he said. And I didn't even know it until you showed me. Outside the window, the sun was rising over the gardens, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. A new day. A new beginning. A new chapter in a story that had started with a desperate lie and a stranger's kiss. Han Soyeon had walked into that ballroom expecting to be humiliated. Instead, she had found a family, a purpose, a love that would last a lifetime. And that, in the end, was worth more than all the awards and achievements in the world. Some stories begin with once upon a time. This one began with a panicked lie and ended with happily ever after. The kiss that changed everything had led to something far greater than either of them could have imagined. A family, a legacy, a love, and the knowledge that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected moments of all. 5 years after the opening of the Soyon Research Institute, the facility had become one of the most respected medical research centers in the world. Scientists from every continent came to study there, to collaborate on treatments that were changing millions of lives. Soyon walked through the gleaming hallways, her footsteps echoing on the polished floors. Every room she passed was filled with researchers working on projects she had once dreamed about alone in a tiny rented laboratory: neural regeneration, memory restoration, treatment protocols that gave hope to patients who had been told there was no hope. "Dr. Han," one of her assistants called out, "the results from the latest trial are in. You should see this." She spent the next hour reviewing data that confirmed her most ambitious theories. The treatment was working even better than expected. Patients who had been unable to recognize their own families were now speaking their names. People who had been told they would never walk again were taking their first steps. "Amazing," she whispered, looking at the results. "Absolutely amazing." "You did this," her assistant said. "All of this started with your vision. It started with a grandmother who refused to die, and a stranger who believed in me." Soyon smiled at the memory. Sometimes the best research comes from the most unexpected places. That evening, she returned home to find the estate transformed. Lanterns hung from every tree, flowers decorated every path, and soft music drifted through the air. "What's all this?" she asked, finding Minho in the garden with Jisoo on his shoulders. "It's our anniversary." "Don't tell me you forgot." "Our anniversary was last month. Our real anniversary." He smiled. 5 years ago today, you walked into a ballroom and changed my life forever." Soyon felt tears prick at her eyes. "You remember the exact date?" "I remember everything about that night. The way you looked, the fear in your eyes when they were attacking you, the way your whole face changed when I kissed you." He set Jisoo down and crossed to take her hands. "I knew then that you were special. I just didn't know how special." They had dinner under the stars, just the three of them plus Grandmother Cha, who at 92 was still sharp as ever and twice as opinionated. Little Jisoo chattered about her day, about the drawings she had made and the games she had played, while the adults listened with fond attention. "This is what I always wanted," Grandmother Cha said, watching her family around the table. "This right here. Love, laughter, a future worth believing in. We have you to thank for it," Soyon said. "If you hadn't sent Minho to that party, if I hadn't nearly died and forced you two together." "Well, yes, that too." The old woman laughed. "Sometimes a grandmother has to take drastic measures." She reached across the table to squeeze Soyon's hand. "But you did the hard work, my dear. All I did was provide the opportunity. You're the one who saved my life, who healed our family, who showed my grandson how to love. You give me too much credit. I give credit where it's due." Grandmother Cha's eyes were serious now. "You walked into this family with nothing but your talent and your integrity. You faced down everyone who tried to destroy you. You built something remarkable from nothing." She paused. "My only regret is that I won't be here to see everything you'll accomplish." "Don't talk like that. I'm 92 years old. I've lived longer than anyone has a right to expect. But I'm not afraid, because I know this family is in good hands." She looked at Minho, then at Soyon, then at little Jisoo. The best hands. Later that night, after Jisoo was in bed and Grandmother Cha had retired to her rooms, Soyon and Minho walked through the gardens together. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't met that night?" she asked. Sometimes. He pulled her close. I think about how empty my life would have been, how I would have gone on building walls, keeping everyone at a distance, and I would have kept hiding, pretending to be someone I wasn't, afraid to let anyone see the real me. Then I'm glad we found each other. He kissed her forehead. Even if it took a desperate lie and my grandmother's dramatic near-death experience to make it happen. She laughed. Your grandmother definitely knows how to make an entrance. She learned it from me. They stood together, looking up at the stars. Somewhere in the house, their daughter was sleeping peacefully. Somewhere else, the grandmother who had brought them together was dreaming of great-grandchildren. And all around them, the future stretched out bright and full of possibility. Minho, Soyeon said quietly. Thank you. For what? For everything. For believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. For standing by me through all of it. For being my partner, my love, my home. You don't have to thank me. He turned her to face him. Being with you is the best decision I ever made. Even if you did trick me into it at first. I didn't trick you. I just provided an opportunity. Now you sound like my grandmother. She smiled. I'll take that as a compliment, as it was meant. They kissed under the stars, the same way they had kissed that first night, when everything had been uncertain, and they had been strangers thrown together by circumstance. But this kiss was different. This kiss was a promise, a commitment, a vow that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The story had begun with a lie, but it had grown into something true. Han Soyeon and Cha Minho had found each other in the most unlikely way possible, and against all odds, they had built a love that would last forever. Some people spend their whole lives searching for happiness. Some people give up and settle for less than they deserve. But some people, the lucky ones, find exactly what they need in exactly the moment they need it. Soyeon had been desperate, cornered, about to be humiliated in front of everyone she knew. And then a stranger had appeared and changed everything. A kiss, a deal, a partnership, and eventually, miraculously, love. The best kind of love story isn't the one where everything goes smoothly from the start. It's the one where two people face impossible odds, overcome incredible obstacles, and somehow, against all reason, find their way to each other. This was that kind of love story, and it had only just begun. Jisoo grew up surrounded by love, with a mother who taught her to be brave, and a father who taught her to be kind. She inherited her mother's brilliance and her father's determination, along with her great-grandmother's stubbornness and her own unique spirit. When she was old enough to understand, her parents told her the story of how they met. The party, the lie, the kiss, the deal. She listened with wide eyes, asking questions, demanding details, wanting to know everything. So you saved Grandma's life? She asked. Even though you just met her? Even though I'd just met her, Soyeon confirmed. Sometimes you have to help people even when you don't know them very well. That's what being a good person means. And Daddy fell in love with you because you were brave? Minho smiled. I fell in love with your mother because she's the most remarkable woman I've ever known. Brave is just the beginning. Jisoo thought about this for a long moment. Then can I be remarkable too? Soyeon gathered her daughter into her arms. You already are, sweetheart. You already are. The sun set over the Cha family estate, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Inside the house, 3 generations gathered together, bound by love and loyalty, and the strange, wonderful path that had brought them all to this moment. Han Soyeon had walked into a ballroom expecting to be humiliated. She had left with a stranger's kiss on her lips and a deal that would change her life. Now, years later, she had everything she had never dared to dream of. A family who loved her. A purpose that mattered. a legacy that would help millions of people. And it had all started with a lie. The best lies, Grandmother Cha liked to say, are the ones that become true. This one had. And they all lived happily ever after,